A long time ago, there was a young shepherd boy named David. He wasn't the biggest, strongest, or oldest among his brothers, but he had something powerful: faith in God. David lived in Israel, and he spent most of his days in the fields watching over his sheep. One day, a great war was happening. The Israelites, God's people, were facing a powerful enemy called the Philistines. The Philistines had a giant warrior named Goliath. Goliath was over 9 feet tall. He wore heavy armor, carried a massive spear, and had a booming voice that made everyone tremble. Every day, Goliath came out and shouted to the Israelite army, "Send someone to fight me!" But no one in Israel's army was brave enough to face him. Even King Saul didn't know what to do. For 40 days, Goliath mocked God and the Israelites. One day, David was sent by his father to bring food to his older brothers, who were soldiers in the army. When David arrived, he heard Goliath shouting his challenge. David looked around and asked, "Why isn't anyone doing something? How can we let him talk about God like that?" The soldiers laughed and said, "He's too big to beat." But David wasn't afraid. He believed that God was bigger than any giant. David went to King Saul and said, "I will fight Goliath." King Saul was surprised. "But you're just a boy," he said. "Goliath has been a warrior since he was young." But David said, "When I was watching my sheep, I fought off lions and bears. God protected me then, and he will protect me now." King Saul finally agreed and tried to put his heavy armor on David. But it didn't fit. David couldn't even walk in it. So David took off the armor and picked up what he knew best: his sling. He stopped by a stream and chose 5 smooth stones. Then, with only his sling, his stones, and his faith in God, David walked toward the battlefield. Goliath laughed when he saw David. "You send a boy to fight me?" he roared. "I will crush you." But David stood tall and said, "You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty. Today God will help me defeat you." Then David ran toward Goliath, reached into his pouch, and took out a stone. He placed it in his sling, spun it around, and let it fly. The stone zoomed through the air and hit Goliath right in the middle of his forehead. Boom! Goliath fell to the ground. The giant was defeated. Everyone stood in shock. The mighty Goliath had been defeated by a young shepherd boy with great faith. The Israelites cheered, and the Philistines ran away. David had trusted in God, and God gave him the victory. This story shows us that no problem is too big for God. When we trust him, even if we're small, even if we're afraid, he will give us the courage to face any challenge. Like David, we can be brave, bold, and full of faith, because with God, we are never alone. 1 Samuel 17:45. David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." Did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new Bible story. And tell us in the comments, what was your favorite part of today's story? See you next time.
A shepherd boy with a sling in hand faced a giant no one could withstand. No armor on, just faith in his stride. With a lion's heart, he wouldn't hide. The soldiers trembled, their courage fell, but David stood where no one else would dwell. He heard the taunts, the roaring sound, and chose the valley battleground. One small stone and the world stood still. The mighty fall when the brave have will. With the odds stacked high, he took his aim. A single shot, the world knew his name. The giant laughed, his shadow loomed, but David's spirit had already bloomed. He swung the sling, the stone took flight, and shouted fear with all its might. It's not the size, it's the fire inside, the quiet ones with the loudest cry. When giants rise, don't turn away. Even the smallest can win the day. One small stone and the world stood still. The mighty fall when the brave have will. With the odds stacked high, he took his aim. A single shot, the world knew his name. One small stone, and the world stood still. The mighty fall, when the brave have will. With the odds stacked high, he took his aim. A single shot, the world knew his name.